It was just a quiet morning at a lonely truck stop off Highway 67, the kind of place where diesel pumps groan louder than any conversation, and tired travelers nurse their coffee like it's their last lifeline. But that morning, something felt different. There was a man, gray-bearded, shoulders slightly hunched from years of hard living, sitting alone at the diner window. He stirred his black coffee slowly, watching a gang of leather-clad bikers roll in like a storm cloud. Nobody knew his name. Nobody knew his story. But in the next few minutes, they'd all learn exactly who he was. It was mid-October, the kind of morning where the chill hung stubbornly in the air, even as the sun tried its best to cut through the fog. The truck stop sat on the edge of a small Midwestern town, half diner, half gas station, and all but forgotten by the highway traffic. Inside, the diner smelled of burnt bacon, strong coffee, and old linoleum wax. A waitress named Claire worked her shift with tired efficiency, pouring refills and wiping counters without much thought. At the corner booth, the gray-bearded man kept his eyes on the parking lot. His name was Thomas Hale, a veteran, retired. Alone, years of service had etched lines into his face deeper than time ever could. His posture was relaxed, almost fragile, but his eyes steel blue missed nothing. The sound of engines shattered the stillness. 8 motorcycles pulled in, loud, aggressive. Their riders were a pack of rough-looking men, leather vests, patches, with skulls, and laughter that carried the kind of edge that made people turn away. Claire's hands trembled slightly as she saw them through the window. She knew trouble when she saw it. And as the gang stormed inside, Thomas Hale quietly set down his mug. The bikers entered like they owned the place, boots thudding heavy on cracked tile, laughter sharp and loud. They spread out across 2 booths, their leader a tall, wiry man with a snake tattoo winding up his neck, snapping his fingers at Claire. "Hey sweetheart, coffee, and make it quick." Thomas didn't flinch, didn't even glance their way. He continued stirring his now cold coffee, but his quiet composure didn't go unnoticed. "Hey old man," one biker sneered, "you deaf or just rude?" Thomas slowly looked up, his face unreadable. "I didn't think you were talking to me." The biker grinned, flashing bad teeth. "Well, now I am. Got a problem with that?" Silence. Claire froze behind the counter. Another customer quickly paid and slipped out the door. Thomas's voice was calm, measured. "I don't have problems, just solutions." The biker barked a laugh. "You got a smart mouth for a relic." He grabbed Thomas's coffee mug and poured it out onto the table. "Oops," Thomas sighed. A long, patient sigh. His hand brushed against his jacket pockets, subtle, almost imperceptible. The leader stepped closer. "What's in the jacket, Grandpa? A notebook? Your pills? Or are you one of those old army types who thinks he's still tough?" Thomas's eyes flicked to the man's hand hovering too close to his own and back up. "You don't want to find out," he said softly. The gang laughed, but something about Thomas's tone made the leader pause. There was no bravado in his voice, no fear, just certainty. The leader reached out as if to grab Thomas by the collar, and in a blur too fast for anyone to process, Thomas moved. The veteran's hand shot out, gripping the man's wrist in a vice-like hold. With a subtle twist and a controlled shift of his weight, he had the biker face down on the table, arm pinned painfully behind his back. The diner went silent except for the man's muffled curses. "You should really be more polite in public," Thomas said, almost conversational. 2 other bikers lunged forward, but Thomas didn't even flinch. A sudden shift of his eyes, a sharp, commanding stare, and they froze mid-step. Something in that gaze told them everything they needed to know. This wasn't just an old man. This was a soldier, a warrior, someone who'd spent decades doing things they couldn't even imagine. The leader hissed in pain. "You're dead, old man. You hear me?" Thomas leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "Son, I've been dead and back more times than you've had hot meals. Don't test me." With a controlled release, he let the man's arm go. The biker stumbled back, clutching his wrist and glaring but no longer smirking. The gang hesitated. Their bravado cracked, replaced by something unfamiliar. Fear. Thomas stood, adjusting his jacket. "Claire," he said gently. "Sorry about the mess. Put their tab on my bill." Claire nodded, eyes wide. The gang, silent now, watched as Thomas walked past them and out into the chilly morning. He didn't look back. Outside, he climbed into a beat-up pickup truck, the kind with more rust than paint. For a moment he just sat there staring at the horizon. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from memory. Inside, the bikers exchanged glances. Nobody said a word, and Claire, she just kept staring at the door, wondering who that man really was. Years later, she'd hear his name on the news, a Medal of Honor recipient. A man who'd once saved an entire platoon in a distant land. But that day, all she knew was this. Sometimes the quietest people carry the loudest stories. You never really know the battles someone's fought until you see the calm in their storm.